All right, so here we are. It is Parshas Balak, and we are reading about the curses that Bilam gave to the Jewish people. And we know, of course, that he wanted to curse the Jewish people, but Hashem did not allow him to, and instead he uttered blessings. It's interesting that the Gemara says that because his intention was to curse the Jewish people, even though what he uttered were blessings, but because in his heart he wanted to curse them, so that intention had an effect. And all of the things that he intended to say were fulfilled as a curse. The blessings were, of course, fulfilled also, because he was speaking as a prophet. Hashem made him into a prophet, and he was giving him over what to say. So, of course, the blessings were fulfilled. But because under every blessing was also a curse, so those curses were also fulfilled. The one exception is a verse that we say every day in our daily prayers. Ma toivu ayalecha Yaakov mishkanesecha Yisrael. How good are your tents, Yaakov, and your dwelling places, the Jewish people. We say this every morning in the preliminary prayers in the morning. After the blessings, in the morning, before we start the readings of the sacrifices and so on, we say that verse. And it's interesting why we say that verse and why that's the one blessing that was not turned into a curse. So what does it actually mean? Bilam saw the Jewish people and the way they set up their tents, and that the doors of each tent was not facing the other doors, so you couldn't see into each other's tent. So he was impressed by their modesty, and that's why it actually occurred to him that perhaps they should not be cursed. That's the first time it says that. The Spirit of Hashem was upon him when he saw them dwelling according to their tents. And Rashi says that means that it occurred to him that he should not actually curse them. So because he saw the way they were positioned and their modesty, he actually came to believe that they did not deserve to be cursed. And therefore, when he uttered this curse, when he uttered this blessing, there was no underlying curse. He was actually saying it as a wholehearted blessing, which is why it remained. But anyway, what does it actually mean? So first of all, he was simply praising them and the way they had set themselves up in their tents and so on. But also, it's referring to the Jewish people's places of worship. The tents are referring, first of all, to the Mishkan, to the sanctuary, the temporary sanctuary in the desert. And the Mishkan Osecha, the more permanent dwelling place, that's the Beis HaMikdash, the permanent, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. Also, it's referring to the fact that the sanctuaries and the holy temples were taken as a collateral by Hashem. That, of course, they were destroyed and they're going to come back to us when Mashiach comes. In addition, it also is referring to our shuls. It's not just the main shul in Jerusalem or wherever it was, but our private shuls. The tent, let me just get it right. The tent is the houses of study, the Beis HaMedrash, the study hall, And the Mishkan, the dwelling place, is the shul where Hashem's presence dwells. So that commentaries explain that that is such an important blessing that Hashem did not want that transformed into a curse, because He wanted us always to have the study halls and the shuls, even in exile. So no matter what situation we're in, we'll have a place to connect to Hashem and so on. So therefore, He did not turn that into a curse. The curse would have been that we should not have study halls. We should not have places of worship, which would be devastating for us. So that did not happen. So in fact, it says in the Gemara that the sages originally wanted to include the blessings of Bilam in our daily prayers. Just like we say the Shema every day, that's like a focal point of our prayers. So originally they wanted to put in the blessings of Bilam as a main focal point of our prayers. And then they decided against it because it would be a bother for the people to read so much, whatever. But actually, the commentaries explain it's not a bother to read holy blessings. The bother is because we know that those blessings were turned into curses. So it's a bother to read stuff that we know is turned into curses. The one exception is the verse that I mentioned, which was not turned into a curse, and that was included in the daily prayers. That's not a bother since it remained a blessing. So, because this verse is referring to the sanctuary and the Holy Temple, so I thought I would speak a little bit about one of the artifacts in the Holy Temple and the sanctuary, the Mishkan, which is the Menorah. And this is bearing in mind that this Sunday is going to be the first day of what we call the 3 weeks. It's going to be a fast day, the 17th of Tammuz. It's actually the 17th of Tammuz on Shabbos, but we do not fast on Shabbos, we delay it till Sunday. So it's the fast of the 17th of Tammuz. So, and that starts a period of mourning known as the 4 weeks, which leads into the 9 days, which leads into Tisha B'Av, the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, 3 weeks from Sunday. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe encouraged his Hasidim and the Jewish people in general to study about the Beis HaMikdash and the Mishkan and all the artifacts during this time. Because it says in the Medrash that when you study about the Beis HaMikdash, it's considered as if you built it, which is similar to what it says about sacrifices. Nowadays we cannot bring sacrifices. When you read about it, it's as if you brought it. So for example, a person who did a particular sin, for that sin there's a sacrifice that is supposed to be brought. He should read the section in the Torah about that sacrifice, and that's considered like he brought it. But it's so much considered like he actually brought it that he's supposed to read it only by day, which is when sacrifices are brought. He's supposed to read it standing, which is how sacrifices are brought, and so on. So it's a very real thing that it's actually similar to the actual sacrifice. In a similar way to the fact that our prayers are linked to sacrifices. It's 3 daily prayers. And when we pray, we are also instructed to stand. We're instructed to face the Holy Temple. We're instructed to wear special garments. You're not supposed to wear your work clothes or dirty stuff, pajamas. When you pray, you're supposed to look honorable. That's similar to the Kohen, who would wear special priestly garments when he would pray. We are instructed also not to have thoughts about other things when we pray. We're supposed to focus on our prayers. Just like the priest, when he brought the sacrifice, he was not allowed to think about anything else. He's supposed to focus on the sacrifices at hand. We are instructed also not to pray with something that is like in between us and the wall. You're supposed to pray directly in front of the wall. Something else might distract you. So something that's not usually there. The table is usually there, a chair or whatever, but something that's not usually there might distract you, and therefore you shouldn't pray. So in that situation, so that's similar to a sacrifice where we say there's not supposed to be any interruptions. You're supposed to pray. You're supposed to Cohen brings a sacrifice, touches it directly without interruption. So here there shouldn't be an interruption. So we find very similar concepts that the prayer is actually corresponding to the actual sacrifice, and that's what has so many parallel laws. Anyway, so the bottom line is that when we study about the Beis Hamikdash, just like when we study about sacrifices, it's as if we're bringing the sacrifice. We study about the Beis Hamikdash and how it was built and how it looked and the measurements and the different artifacts. So Hashem considers it as if we're actually building it. So normally we try to fulfill every mitzvah actually in action. The 613 mitzvahs. Right. And a person is supposed to fulfill every single one of them. So you say, well, how can I fulfill the ones that don't exist today? I can't make a Jewish king unless you voted Moshe Feiglin to the Knesset or something. I can't build a base of Mikdash unless you're one of the temple I'm faithful and believe that you can. There's a bunch of other stuff. You can't kill the Amalekites. We don't even know who they are, whatever. So the answer is that Rizal says that we are all reincarnations. So our soul, at different points in history, did fulfill those mitzvahs, and we're back here to fix up what we did not yet fulfill. So the point is, nevertheless, we should all try as much as possible to fulfill every mitzvah that we can, because we never know what we did and what we didn't do. So now we can't actually build a Beis Hamikdash, but when we study about it, so it's as if we actually did it. So I thought to speak a little bit about the menorah today. The menorah, of course, is one of the main artifacts in the Holy Temple. Used every day, in the morning and in the late afternoon. Quite a magnificent piece of art, pure gold, very ornate, made with artwork, flowers, and ornamental balls, and cups, and so on and so forth. So originally there was only the menorah that Moshe Rabbeinu built, and then King Solomon added other menorahs, if I'm not mistaken, another 10. But they were not the main ones, they were additional ones. And I read an interesting thing about the light of the menorah. What was the purpose of the light of the menorah? Hashem doesn't need light. Hashem sees everything. Hashem is the source of light. We need light. Hashem doesn't need light. So why does Hashem need the menorah? So I read an interesting explanation. And this was quoted in reference to a very special woman whose name was Devorah. Devorah was one of the 7 prophetesses, and she was the wife of somebody named Lapidot. This Lapidot was apparently a simple man, and Devorah, who was a very sophisticated woman, to the extent that she was the judge of the Jewish people, the prophetess of the Jewish people, and even a military leader. They went to battle, so Barak, who was another leader at that time, said, I'm not going unless you come with me to battle. So she was quite an accomplished woman. Her husband was more on the simple side, but she wanted to encourage him to use his talents to serve Hashem. So she made wicks for the temple. Actually, there was no Beis Hamikdash then. It was a sanctuary, like temporary sanctuary in Shiloh. And she made very thick wicks for the menorah, and she would send him to Shiloh to deliver those wicks. So he was called Lapidot because the word lapid is like a torch. So, in reference to this, I read, what's the point of the thick wicks? Well, they make a lot of light. But why do you need a lot of light? Again, back to the same question. If Hashem doesn't really need light. So here's what I read. Hashem's Shekhinah rested in the sanctuary and in the holy temple. And the intense light of the Shekhinah was so great that the people could actually see using the light of the Shekhinah. It like produced some kind of glow. But it would not be respectful for us to make use of the light of the divine presence for our own use to be able to see things. So the menorah, the purpose of the menorah was that we should have a physical light, and then we should not have to get any benefit from the light of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence. So that's why it's considered a great merit that she made thick wicks and that her husband provided them for the sanctuary, because that was honoring the Shekhinah by having so much light that the Kohen did not have to use, so to speak, to utilize the light of the Shekhinah for himself. An interesting point. So, just to talk a little bit about the menorah itself. The menorah, of course, was made out of pure gold. And it had to be made out of one lump of gold, which was then melted down and fashioned into the ornate piece of the menorah as it was. It could not be made of individual pieces that would then be soldered together. It had to actually be one piece of gold that was just kind of branched out. Now, if the Jewish people could not afford it, they were allowed to make a menorah of other types of metal. To me, there's an opinion in the Gemara that says that it could even be made of wood, but that's not accepted in the final analysis of the law. It has to be out of metal, but it does not have to be gold. In fact, when they built the second Beis Hamikdash in the beginning, the second Holy Temple, they were very poor, and they made it out of tin. And only later, when they got rich, did they remake it out of gold and so on. Now, interestingly, the law that a menorah has to be made out of one piece only applies to a golden menorah. And the law that it has to have 9 flowers, and I believe it's 15 bowls and 22 cups. Let me just make sure I'm giving you the right numbers here. I don't want to get them wrong. Sorry, 11 bowls. So that law also only applied to a golden metal. If it were to be made out of other metals, once again, it did not have to be, did not have to have those designs. But it always had to have 7 lamps. That was essential. And 6 of the lamps would face the middle lamp. That's the way the Rambam understands it. And the middle lamp would face the Holy of Holies. So, here's a little Hasidic teaching from the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe. And we'll see how it connects to the menorah soon. And this relates to a verse in the book of Kings, second book of Kings. There was a very holy man, his name was Elisha. He was Elijah the prophet's main student. And he used to visit a place called Shumei. And there was a woman there who recognized how great he was, and she would host him. So she said to her husband one day, you know, there's a godly man who comes to stay by us all the time. Let's make him a little attic, a little room in the attic. We'll put a bed and a table and a chair and a lamp there, so that when he comes, he'll have a good place to stay. And that's what they did. And when Elisha came, that's where they had him stay. And he was very appreciative. He asked the student, what blessing can I give them? The student said, well, her husband is old, I haven't had children yet. So he blessed him with a child. And then, of course, the child got sick and died, and Elisha resuscitated him and brought him back to life. But anyway, that's a whole other story. Anyway, so here's how the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe explains this verse. Behold, a godly man passes by us all the time. What does that mean? That means that even a simple person has a spirit of purity that comes to him all the time, that awakens him to do tshuva and become better. So, like we said before, Devorah, for example, got her husband, who was a simple man, to make wicks for the menorah. The menorah represents godly awakening, so he became a more godly person who was able to lift himself up. Now the problem is that even though we may have this godly spirit that kind of comes to us from time to time, we have to make a dwelling place for it. That means we have to kind of catch it and focus it so that we can be changed by it and become better. So that's what the meaning of the verse is. Let's make a little room and we'll put there a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp, so that when the godly man, which means the godly spirit, comes, it will stay there. It'll stay by us. It means we have to do certain things to bring about that the spirit of Hashem should stay within us and not dissipate. So here's what it is. Mita, Shulchan, Kisei, and Menorah. Bed, table, chair, and lamp. What's the bed? So the Zohar says that these are referring to the nighttime Shema, which is the bed, and then the table, chair, and lamp are all part of the morning prayers as follows. The nighttime Shema is the bed, because we say it before we go to bed. And what's the nighttime Shema about? The nighttime Shema is about making a reckoning and a stock taking about what we accomplished in our day. We look back at our day and we think about it. What should we have done and what did we accomplish? Really, we should have spent our day doing godly things, doing mitzvahs, waking up, going to shul, to daven, properly focusing, concentrating, spending time afterwards, studying some Torah, and only afterwards going to work, and but even in the workplace, to keep a holy air about us and do the right thing and so on. But very often, a person just forgets about that, and he wakes up and he doesn't go to shul to daven necessarily. Maybe he davens at home, and maybe when he davens, he doesn't really focus on the words. He's kind of distracted. He's thinking about this, that, and the other, and the ball game, and the business deal that I could have got, that I would have got, that I should have got. And then he doesn't even spend time learning Torah. He goes straight to the workplace, and because he's not inspired, in the morning his whole day kind of is lacking inspiration. So when it comes to the end of the day, we look back at our day and we think, what did I accomplish? Like with all my distractions about how I'm going to make a living and how I'm going to make a parnasa and how I'm going to make a deal, that didn't help me at all because I didn't make that deal. So it distracted me in my prayers, and then nothing even came of it. So what's the point? So a person should think about such thoughts before he goes to sleep and decide that the next day it's going to be different. And even though maybe he says to himself, last night I also said that the next day is going to be different, and it wasn't, okay, but tomorrow is actually going to be different. That's the idea of the mita, of the bed. That every night before we go to bed, we should make a reckoning and decide to change our ways. Then we have the table. What's the table? The table is a block of wood. Take a block of wood and you form it. You make it flat, you make it smooth, you cut it, you make the underside also more or less flat, maybe not so smooth, you give it legs. So the person is compared to a tree. And the way we grow is a little bit wild, not so smooth, not so square, kind of branching out. And that's referring to our animal instinct that just grows whichever way and desires whatever it desires. And then what we have to do in our morning prayers, in the section called Psuke de Zimra, the verses of praise, which is when we discuss seeing God within nature. These are the verses of the Psalms that we read in the beginning of the prayers. We read about the snow and the different animals and the wind and all the different forces of nature. How Hashem provides sustenance for all the animals and so on, for the ravens. And we're just looking at the world around us and seeing how Hashem is really the one running the whole show. So the idea is that this is supposed to impress our animal instincts, because we're talking to it in its own language. We're showing the animal instinct how Hashem is within this world, is the one who makes this world run. And the animal instinct does relate to this world. So when you talk about the snow and the animals and the fact that he satiates us and he takes care of us and he has chosen us and so on, these are things that animal instinct relates to. And therefore we can make an impact on it to get excited about serving Hashem instead of about eating danishes or whatever else it wants to do. And this is the idea of the table, that we take the wood, which represents the human being, the human kind of desire, and we shape it, we form it. So we're kind of trying to transform the animal instinct and give it a kind of holy shape. Then we come to the chair. What's the chair? He says the chair represents the Kriyas Shema, the reading of the Shema in the morning. Shema includes the word Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Hashem is one. There's nothing else in the whole world, the heavens and the earth and all the four directions. And therefore, Hashem Elokecha, you should come to love Hashem your God. And that's a very high level that a person should actually contemplate about that. about the unity of Hashem, that there's nothing besides Hashem, and this should bring him to love Hashem. Very high level. It's like the word chair, kisei, is made of the Hebrew words kes aleph, which means a chair with the aleph and the one Hashem. That means a person in the Shema makes a chair, makes a kind of a receptacle for the divine light to rest within him. That's the love of Hashem that he's supposed to engender and create in his own heart when he says the Shema. However, when it comes to a person who loves Hashem, sometimes there can still be some ego involved in that. Because the person feels like he's so great, such a tzaddik. Oh, I love Hashem. And even if it's not so, I'm trying to think of the right word, not in such a coarse way, not in such an obvious way, but still, he still has a feeling of self, a feeling of, I am the one that loves. There's Hashem, there's me, and I love Hashem. So there is a little bit of a sense of self. If you take, for example, the idea of a fire, love is compared to fire. So when you have a big fire, there's a lot of noise. The noise represents the wood that doesn't really want to burn. It's got moisture in it. It's cracking. That represents the parts of the wood that are not so happy to burn up. Only at the end, when you're left with the coals, that's when it's quiet. Because then all the moisture is out of the wood. There's nothing that objects to the fire burning. And then it's like nothing is held back. So that represents the person that loves Hashem in a very non-selfish way. Just focusing on Hashem, not focusing on himself. This is actually represented by the level of the Amidah. Amida is the standing prayer we say in the morning. And when a person says that prayer, he's supposed to reach a level where he's completely subservient to Hashem, where there is no feeling of self. Which is why we say that prayer in silence. We don't lift our voice at all because it's inappropriate. We have no sense of self, so how can we lift our voice? Which is why we bow during that prayer. We stand in submission. Feet are together like we have no power. Hashem is the only one that has the power. So, sorry. How does the menorah represent humility? So he explains that, like we said, the menorah is made out of one piece of gold, and it has to be fashioned and formed into a menorah. So when you take this piece of gold and you bang it all around, and you fashion it. So what happens is some of the gold that was on the top has to go to the bottom, some of the gold on the bottom has to go to the top. So you're kind of removing it from its original form and changing it into a new form. And that represents the fact that every person has their own kind of form, their own way of thinking, way of feeling. And we have to refashion ourselves so that we represent the divine image. Instead of having our own feelings the way we think we should feel and think and understand, we should fashion our own feelings and our own thoughts in the image of Hashem. So that's like the banging out of the gold and forming it into the seven branches of the menorah, representing the seven divine attributes. So, in fact, a very interesting point, and this comes from the author of the Tanya. He says, that in order for a person to remain humble, what he should do is he should think about the fact that every Jew is connected to every other Jew. And there's like a symbiotic relationship between all of us. We all affect the other one in a good way and in a bad way. We do good, and that good becomes a shared good. We do bad, that bad becomes a shared bad, because we're all so closely connected. So, for example, he says if a person is doing very well in terms of his serving Hashem, rather than being haughty and arrogant and saying, wow, I'm so great, he should consider the fact that maybe it's not even his own doing. Maybe the spirit of goodness and holiness that came to him is from a different man, a tzaddik, who was serving Hashem so intensely that it kind of brushed off on him. And on the contrary, when you see somebody who's sinning and who's not behaving properly, rather than looking down at him and saying, wow, what a sinner, what a bad guy, instead, you should say, you know what? I know that I'm a sinner. I know that I'm so far from perfect, and it could be my sins are what brought him to sin, because we affect everybody else. So instead of looking down at him, look down at yourself, and think about the fact that it might be your fault, and he is the way he is. So this is another example of humility that is represented by the Menorah, the fact that we're all connected. 7 branches represent 7 types of Jews, all part of one piece. We get to say that we're all affecting one another.
One essence.
Exactly. So, as a bit of a side point, because this is not really connected to the Menorah per se, but the previous Rebbe discusses the question of why in these 4 aspects of the prayer, we don't discuss the afternoon prayer of Mincha at all. We do the evening service, which is like the night Shema. We said that's like the bed. We do the morning service, which we said is divided into 3. There's the preliminary psalm, that's like the table. And then there's the Shema, which is like the chair. And there's the Amidah, like the Menorah. And then what? What happened to Mincha? So the previous Rebbe says that Mincha is the most important prayer, which is why all of these are an introduction to Mincha. Mincha is like the apex of all of them. Why? He says because Mincha is the most difficult prayer. In the morning, of course you go to shul to pray, because that's how a Jew starts his day. I mean, he wants God's blessing in the day. He's got to do something. He's got to elicit the blessing. So he goes and he prays. Wonderful. Then the day is over. Before he gives his soul back to God, he knows the soul is going to have to answer for what he did during the day. So he prays. Of course he prays. But then, in the middle of the day, when he's in the middle of doing whatever he's doing, whatever deal he's doing, or he's traveling, or he's just busy running back and forth, he has to stop. Wait, Mincha. That's a very high level to be able to do that and focus on it properly and so on. In addition, the previous Rebbe says, there's 3 daily prayers of Shachris, Mincha, Mayer, the morning, afternoon, evening, represent 3 times in every person's life. The morning prayer represents when we're young and we're excited and we've got energy, like kids. They go to school, they go to yeshiva, they get fired up, and they're learning Torah, and they're going to conquer the world. But of course, because that's what they have the vitality and the energy of youth. And they haven't been jaded and been let down, because they still see things, with a fresh eye. So of course, they're serving God. That's the way it should be. That's the morning prayer, so to speak. The evening prayer represents Jew who is towards the end of his life. He's already worked, he's retired, semi-retired, whatever it is. And he knows that it's just a matter of years before he has to return his soul to his maker. And he knows that he has to shape up, because if not now, when? He's going to have to answer for everything. So he goes to shul, starts learning a little bit more, starts behaving a little bit better, because after all, this is his last chance. So that's also pretty obvious that he's going to do the right thing at that time. The challenge is the mincha time. The mincha time represents a person's middle age, when he doesn't have the vitality of youth anymore, but he's not facing the end of his life either. And these are the working years, and it's a time that a person can become totally consumed with making a physical living and kind of ignore what's important, times of prayer, times of concentration, times of Torah study, every day, fixed times, and so on and so forth. So that's the main challenge. That's what defines him most, because that's when he doesn't have these other things that are helping him focus. The beginning and the end help him focus. Here's in the middle, and it's totally up to him to see if he's going to pass the test, serve Hashem or not at that time. So that's the most significant of the three times in a person's life.
The last prayer was
Myra
was incorporated by Yaakov.
Yaakov, correct? Yes. So the point is that we need to make a dwelling place for Hashem in ourselves, and that's the attic that she built for the holy man. We all have to build a little attic for our holiness inside of ourselves. This is accomplished through our daily prayers. But it also, the simple reading of the verse was that she actually built a house for a guest, for a physical guest, which is of course true. And she was blessed in a major way because of that. And that's a lesson for us too. To host guests, it's a big mitzvah. And it brings a big blessing if a person does it in the right way with the whole heart and so on and so forth. Anyway, there's a lot more to learn about the Menorah, but we'll call the day for now, and hopefully learn about it one more time.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Pleasure.